1 day, 8 hours, 4 minutes, 18 seconds. That is the amount of time that stands between us and the return of meaningful 76ers basketball. It has been a long hiatus, and I, for one, am excited to see the boys get back on the floor and do what they do best. Given a ton of expectations at the beginning of the season from national media, the Sixers have not lived up to their potential and entered the bubble 6th place in the Eastern Conference at 39 wins and 26 losses. A season of high and lows, chemistry issues, and injuries will reach its peak when the team hits the floor on August 1st against the Indiana Pacers. During the season, the Sixers have averaged 109.6 points per game and held opponents to 107.4 points, good enough for 6th best defensive rating in the league. In this video, I will be breaking down the 8 seeding games that the Sixers will be participating in. In addition, I will be giving my thoughts on how the team should move forward gearing up for the playoffs. Without further delay, let's begin. The first game on the Sixers' bubble schedule is against the Indiana Pacers. Indiana comes into this game tied with the Sixers for 5th seed in the Eastern Conference at 39 and 26. Playing without their star player Victor Oladipo, the Pacers have positioned themselves relatively nicely within the conference. In 3 matchups against the Sixers this season, Indiana owns the series lead 2-1, outscoring the Sixers 104-111 in those games. As I said in my last video, this opening matchup is an important test for the 76ers. Even without Oladipo, Indiana has still been an Achilles heel for the squad. Whoever wins this game will own the right to the higher playoff seed when the season ends in mid to late August. Without Sabonis in the lineup due to injury and Oladipo going back and forth whether he'll play or not, the Sixers should win this game. No, screw that. They need to win this game. The next game that the Sixers have will be against Brett Brown's friend, mentor, and patriarch of the early/mid-2000s NBA dynasty, Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs hold a record of 27-36 and clock in as the Western Conference 12th seed. They are a straggler, fighting for the 8th seed along with 6 other teams. They entered the bubble without big man LaMarcus Aldridge, who opted out because he is nursing an injury. In our lone game against San Antonio this season, the Sixers won 115-104. Without an interior presence, Joel Embiid should have an advantage down on the block and have a whole field day. Have we seen the last of the Spurs dynasty and Greg Popovich? I honestly think so. The Washington Wizards will be the Sixers' 3rd opponent within the bubble, and they pose 0 to no threat against the team. Washington holds the 9th seed within the Eastern Conference and are currently 5.5 games out of the final playoff seed. They will try to compete for this seed all without the star player Bradley Beal, who is sitting out due to a shoulder injury. They will also be without flamethrower David Bertans, who had surgery on his wrist prior to the season being postponed. Though the Wizards hold a 1-2 season series lead against the Sixers, I know, ridiculous, right? Without their aforementioned important pieces, Sixers should have a field day against them. They are still waiting for John Wall to suit up, who last played on the NBA court on December 26, 2018. Let's hope my earlier words saying that the Washington Wizards were no threat doesn't come back to bite us. Next up, the Sixers will be playing the Orlando Magic, who will be the only team within the NBA bubble with any sort of home court advantage. Markelle Fultz and his Bulls are 8th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 30-35. The Sixers have played the Magic 3 times this season and hold a record of 1-2 against them. Yet another example of the Sixers underachieving this season. Looking at the Magic at 30-35, they hold the same record at 65 games this year as they did last year. This game will be sort of a homecoming for former Sixers players such as Michael Carter-Williams, Markelle Fultz, and James Ennis III, who I'm still salty that Elton Brand traded for virtually nothing this year. Tidbit on this matchup is that the Sixers have averaged/scored more points against Orlando within their 3 meetings, but still hold a losing record against them this season. Go figure. I'm not expecting much out of this matchup, but it will be good to see some old faces. Hopefully, that will make for good entertainment. I know I'm not the only one who believes that the Portland Trail Blazers have been an utter disappointment this season. One half of last year's Western Conference Finals duo enters the bubble 8 games below 500 at 29-37. Injuries have played a role in the Blazers' regression this season, as they have been without Jusuf Nurkic for most of the year. Luckily for them, the big man will be available when the bubble returns. The Sixers have played the Blazers once this season. You may recall that this is the game where Furkan Korkmaz hit his first ever game-winning buzzer beater. Expect this game to be exciting, as Portland is fighting for their playoff lives. Besides, Dame Time has a chip on his shoulder, and you already know he's going to show out. Alright, so the 6th game on the Sixers schedule is against the Phoenix Suns on August 11th. Remember in the beginning of the season when many NBA fans were jumping on the Suns bandwagon after their quick 5-2 start? What a sun must have set on this team, because they entered the bubble with a record of 26-39, the lowest record of any team who was returning to NBA play. The one game against Phoenix this season, the Sixers lost in embarrassing D-Book-inducing fashion, 114-109. Look, I'm just going to say it. D-Book is one of the most overrated players in the league right now. Now, before you close this video and give it a dislike, listen, I know the man is a walking bucket, but in year 5, he has yet to lead his team to a playoff appearance. People will continue to give him the excuse that he is in the West, but isn't Ja Morant in the West? Furthermore, isn't Ja Morant a rookie? The Grizzlies haven't made a playoff appearance since 2017, and yet a rookie is taking them there right now. The excuses given to D-Book need to end. The Toronto Raptors, aka the Joel Embiid Killers, is next on the schedule against the Sixers. The second seed in the Eastern Conference have been a pleasant surprise this year at 46-18. Many people believe that the NBA champions will regress with the loss of Kawhi Leonard to the LA Clippers, but that doesn't appear to be the case. Coach of the Year frontrunner Nick Nurse has his squad inspired to show the NBA universe that last year's championship was not a fluke. In the 3 games against the Raptors this season, the Sixers hold a record of 1-2. A low light of these games occurred in November when the Raptors famously held Joel Embiid to 0 points. Other than that example, the Sixers have a lot of motivation and ammunition to avenge their second-round playoff loss from last year. I'm excited to see this game. Shout out to my Canadian friend that I met in Cancun this year. We coming for y'all, yo. The final matchup of the seeding games will be on August 14th against the Houston Rockets. This will be the return game for Robert Covington, who is fitting nicely in his new role with the team. As many know, Houston turned the basketball world on its head when it revealed its mega small ball lineup after trading away its center Clint Capella to the Hawks before the trade deadline. Holding a record of 40-24, Houston is in a prime position to move up the Western Conference ladder, going as high as the 3rd seed when it is all said and done. Do not sleep on this team. Shout out to the Bull Harden and Brody. If the Sixers were to lose one game out of these 8, I would say it would be this one. The Sixers played them one time this season and lost that game 118-108. It is what it is. So overall, the Sixers have a relatively easy road ahead of them with the second easiest remaining schedule in the league. If everything goes well for the Sixers, they have enough talent to go 7-1. But the question is, should they want to? Staying in the 6th seed would give them an easier playoff schedule, pitting them against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals if everything goes according to plan. But honestly, I don't think they should do that. I feel like going all out within these last games are important. I want the momentum going into the playoffs. And if that means raising our seed, effectively bringing on a tougher road, so be it. The Sixers brought this upon themselves anyway with an abysmal 10-24 road record before the season stalled. If the team is truly that talented like everyone says they are, it shouldn't matter who they play with in the playoffs. The Eastern Conference is stacked regardless. It is put up or shut up time. It is time for Joel to step up and become the process. It is time for Brett Brown to coach as if his life depended on it, putting players in the right positions and calling the right plays. It is time for Benjamin Simmons to shoot the ball and act like the Fresh Prince that we all came to know and love. The process has yielded the city of Philadelphia 2 generational talents. In their 3rd season together, the clock finally begins to tick. The Sixers cannot afford to play scared. Wherever they end up, they end up. That's just the way it has to be. And I, for one, believe in them. As always, them boys are mad because the process worked. My name is Kayeen, and I'm still trusting it.